Okay, customizing ClickUp to suit you. So there's a few things here you can do to make it look and kind of act the way you want. So first of all, we'll go into your settings in the bottom left-hand corner here and go to My Settings. So there's a few options in here. The most obvious is your color theme. So you can change to a different color theme. Make sure you hit Save Changes. Then you'll see all of your accents are now in a different color. And that's across ClickUp. We go back in. We can also change our profile picture up here. So change a different color, we can just have your initials, or you can actually add a picture with a custom picture of you. If you're an admin, you can also do that for the workspace picture that you'll see down here. Currently it's just a C. Okay, next up you've got your time settings. So depending where you live, you may have a different date format, or you may prefer a 24-hour time, or having a week start on Monday, that sort of thing. And of course, set your time zone to match where you are. Some companies will have everyone set the same time zone, so they're all working at the same time regardless of where they are. That's an option, but in generally most people will set it to wherever they live. Then we've got some preferences down the bottom here. So you can turn these on or off. They just change a little bit how ClickUp works. So the fly out toast messages, that's these little messages that pop up in the bottom left whenever you make changes. They're often really good because they have an undo button. So I generally tend to have them on. Whether or not you want to have comments post when you hit enter, if you do a lot of multiple line comments, you may want to turn this off so you don't actually submit the comment until you hit Control Enter. Markdown is when you're using like asterisks to make things bold. If you're familiar with that, you might like to have that on. Hotkeys, there's a good link here to where all the hotkeys are. And this is everything you can do at ClickUp to quickly get places. So that's using S for search, K for quick switch. There's a few really good ones in here. T to create a new task. L always goes back to tasks or page views if you are in somewhere else. Like say for example you're in home, you just hit L to go back to the spaces tab. So if you like using hotkeys, can be quite good to keep them on. Okay, Notepad is a feature that you can use. It just creates a little notepad that you can enter notes into that kind of save permanently until you delete them. Good for taking notes while on a call, and you can go in and any of those you can create a task out of them. So it's good for taking notes and then later on moving them into tasks. It's on by default. Most people leave it on, but use it or not as you please. Okay, dark mode. A lot of people love this. So dark mode will do what you expect and change everything to be dark. A lot of people prefer that, so that's an option there. Okay, global font support if you are using an Asian language. Celebrations just show a little animation on screen when you clear out your home area. And data sync allows you to work on certain tasks that have been synced even when you don't have internet. So that is the different preferences. I'll hit save here to go back to my regular light mode. In addition to dark mode, you can also go into the sidebar settings up here and go to dark sidebar. So what this will do is change your sidebar and your favorites to be dark whilst leaving your main area light. So if you do prefer a combination of the two, that's available there. Okay, next up, if you have some spaces that you don't need, so for example, I'm not actually working with this retail business space right now, you can go to the three dots beside it and go to hide spaces. And all of your hidden spaces will be collapsed under one line here. You can still expand them and see them, but they're kind of out of your way. So it's really common in a business that you might have access across the whole business, but realistically you're only working with a couple of spaces. You can hide all the rest, so you're just seeing kind of what you need to see in the sidebar here. Okay, next up, to customize ClickUp specifically for you, views. So we've talked about them already. Make the views that match what you need to see on a daily basis, or if they've already been made, make sure you favorite them. So they're at the top here. If you're making a view that's personal to you, or it's the way that you want to see it that no one else really cares about, do make that view private. So turn on personal view here, so that it's not cluttering up everyone else's view bar. That way you can have your own personal set of views that are set up just the way you want. Note that is a business plan feature, so if you are unlimited, you will be sharing views. Okay, next up, be aware that on particularly list view and table view, you can reorder and resize columns. So if you wanted to get it looking just the way you want, you may wish to change around the order and sizing to get it looking just right. Also, make sure you remember that there's a quick show and hide close task button here. Can be really useful to quickly see tasks, even if they're not always showing. Similarly, there are some options on the grouping here, renaming, selecting all, but you can also collapse a group. So if you wanted to see it, but just kind of not always have it there, you can also use this little chevron on the side to open and collapse groups to get them out of your way or see them again. You can also hide groups, and this is particularly when you're grouping by status. It works with a couple of other groupings. You can hide that status, and all that does is it applies a filter for you to not show that status. If you're already using filters for other things, that may not be compatible with them. Okay, and we talked about favorites. Make sure you're favoriting the views that are useful to you. If your favorites are showing up in the sidebar here, you may prefer that, and that may be fine. But if you do prefer it up the top, you can use this pin icon to put it up there. Dashboards are really useful for seeing overviews and reports. I'm not going to go into them today, but good to be aware that they're there. In there, you can kind of see charts, line charts, bar charts, that sort of thing, pulling in the data that you have access to. Okay, and finally, there are some ClickApps which change the way that ClickUp works. Now, these are not user settings. These are admin settings. So if you're an admin, you'll be able to change them. If not, you may be able to request your admin to change them. I'll go through a few quickly, but in general, you won't be seeing these. There's a whole bunch of features you can turn on or off. That's great. Customize it to suit your particular use case. And then there's a few particular ones I wanted to point out. So custom fields. You can turn on the ability to order custom fields manually. By default, it's alphabetical, but you may wish to have a specific order of custom fields. If so, that can be turned on here. Secondly, nested subtasks. This could be off, but if you do want subtasks under subtasks, you can choose how many levels to go to. I would suggest keeping it as small as reasonably needed. And then lastly, with time displays, you can choose if time will be displayed in hours. If you turn that off, it'll try and group it into days. So it might say 4 days and 2 hours, where days means, in this case, 8 hours. So sometimes it's easier to always show it in hours. You can also turn on estimates per assignee, so that when you're adding time estimates to a task, instead of saying, 5 hours for this whole task, you can say, John's going to do 2 hours, and Phil's going to do 1 hour, and Jane's going to do the other 2 hours. So you can have it separated out. That is an option. Again, all of these are admin settings, must be set by an admin, and they apply to the entire workspace. So if you are an admin, I'd definitely recommend coming in here, turning on and off the ClickApps that are needed or not needed to customize ClickUp for your entire workspace before they start customizing it personally with the settings we talked about before. Okay, and that is how to customize ClickUp to suit you. Before you go, I've got something for you. After using ClickUp for a while, you'll find that it starts to get cluttered, hard to use, and things can start falling through the cracks, even if you set it up really well. That's nobody's fault, it just happens. Cars need checkups to keep them running smoothly, and so does your ClickUp. What I have for you is the instruction manual on how. It's called the ClickUp Checkup, and it's a checklist of the things you need to do every 1 to 3 months that will prevent a whole swath of issues that start cropping up after you've been using ClickUp for about a year or so, sometimes sooner. So with it is a training video where I go through each of the checks myself so you can see exactly how I do it and why. A PDF with the checklist and quick reference instructions, and finally a ClickUp task template so you can instantly import all that directly into your ClickUp, have it recur each month or quarter with the checklist ready to go. Click the link in the description to get it now and prevent the headache of having the clarity you wanted from ClickUp turn into confusion. I'll see you on the inside.